Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this podcast episode, to this live on Instagram. And today, the question that I want to ask you, or the question that many people ask me is, do teachers really get rusty in their English? Even if they're using English, hey moms, even if they are using their English every day, constantly on a daily basis, do they really get rusty? Is it possible? Let me know here in the comments if you have ever experienced that. If you have ever felt like your English was getting rusty, like you were losing all the English you have, if you felt like in the beginning it was you were much faster, it was much faster to produce an answer, to produce a response, and then suddenly you realized that this process was taking longer. Fe, hi there. I'm gonna call you in a second. So let me just contextualize things here. When I had my first son, my first baby, I had already been teaching for over 10 years. This means I had been studying English for over 10 years because once I started teaching and studying, I have never stopped studying, right? And then the last semester of my pregnancy, I didn't have any groups. And the first, of course, the first 2 semesters after labor, I didn't have any groups either because timing was difficult. I was only working as a pedagogical coordinator for school. This means I was not actually in class. I didn't have as much contact with English as I used to for this first let's put it a year. Okay, let's make it a year. And I remember that when he started going to school, he was around 11 months, I got back to the classroom, I started teaching again, and oh my god, that was such a shock. I remember I felt like, do I really speak English? I felt like I knew some of the words. Students asked me about words that I knew, but I couldn't find them in the back of my head. I couldn't find them in my mind. So I felt like, oh my God, is it true that I really forgot everything I had worked so hard to get? And we have today a guest, a very special guest. We have Fernanda here. Fer, let me see if I can have you. Well, you have to ask me request to join, is it? Or I can just invite you. I can and hear her story with her English. She's also a teacher. We're gonna get to know a little bit more about her background, but she has an interesting story to share with you as well. Hi, Faye. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
How
How
are you,
are you?
sweetie? I'm great. What about you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just adjusting the sound here. It was too loud.
Adjust everything. Check if everything's okay. Great.
I'm
So
more
welcome.
beautiful.
Ah, yes, your hair looks amazing. Your
Thank
waves are
you.
beautiful. Your curls are beautiful. Okay, so let's share. Faye, I was telling, I don't know if you heard that I was sharing my story when I had my first baby, that I spent
I
some time.
I didn't know about it.
You didn't. Well, I usually tell this because it was quite of a shock for me. It came as a shock to me because I was like, oh my God, did I really forget everything? There is this thing, and Faye has just had a baby, right? Heitor is 5 months old now.
Or
4 months old now. I don't know if you had this feeling, but when I had my babies, I felt like I was getting dumber, Like,
yes, I have this all the time. Today I was recording a video and I was telling names of fruits and vegetables. And then I looked at the plum, you know,
huh?
and I said, I think it's plum, but I'm not sure. And then I looked at the zucchini and I said, oh my God, how do I say abobrinha in English? I knew it because I love to eat it. Where's my What's maybe, but it's not only in English. It happens
No.
all the time in
Yeah.
Portuguese too.
Uh-huh. With the
So
numbers and maths. Yes.
yeah, I forget everything
Uh-huh.
because I always had this kind of attention issue. But now it's stronger.
Girls, if
It's
you're mothers, let me know here in the comments if you have been through this as well. But there is a biological explanation for that, right? It's about like the brain being rewired, and it's like your focus now is being a mom, and there's this entire primitive story of
we cannot forget our babies, right? For evolutionary purposes, we have to
Yes.
be.
And we have to focus so much on our babies that, for example, sometimes I'm working and I'm listening. To I have the feeling that I'm
Huh?
listening,
I
you know, to
know.
him crying, and then I go there and I
He's
look
not
at him and
he's not crying. I had
not
this, and then we're
crying.
going away. We're digressing from the topic, right? But it makes super sense. It happened to me. It usually happened to me when I was taking a shower. So every time I was taking a shower, I would hear the baby crying, and I would stop taking a shower. I would pause my shower, and nothing. And when I turned the water on again, I heard the baby crying again. And when I turned it off, nothing. So
Yeah,
it's insane. It's insane.
insane.
So this is a specific moment in our lives, but we're talking about a moment previously to that, right? We're
Yeah,
talking about getting your English back when your English is not Englishing enough. And this can happen for a number of different reasons, one of them being maternity, recent maternity, but also due to the fact that you're teaching only basic levels. So,
yes.
Faye, tell us about your story. Tell us about you as a teacher, as a student of English. Let us put us in the picture.
Okay, so I started studying English, and I say I've started because as you were saying, we never stop learning. So I started. I was see. I have to think. I I was 10 or 11 years old, and when I was 17, I took a proficiency test, and it was okay. I had good English. I did an interchange, and that was it. And then I started teaching English. When I started, I was always pleased because they gave me advanced levels. And the other teachers sometimes were, oh, why are
Right
they giving you?
from the
Because they say
beginning.
you have to have experience to teach advanced levels. I don't know. I didn't ask for it, but
Wow.
yes, and I taught intermediate and advanced levels, and then I started working at the university. And after this experience, I started teaching at a school, and with them, I started with basic students, and I was in love with them. As you know, I love them so much. And after that, I worked at a university, and there we would teach basic students mostly, and
University students, like students who were studying
university
at that
students,
university.
yeah. And but there, I wasn't an English teacher. I was a
Mhm.
coordinator, so I wasn't in class. I would
Mhm.
prepare material for the teachers to use in class and everything like this. And after that, I started working online. And when I started working online, I would teach basically kids and teenagers. And after I defined my niche, and I started teaching, focusing on basic students.
Mhm. By the way, guys, if you need a basic teacher, a teacher for basic students, Faye is the one. So go for her.
Yeah.
Just okay, parenthesis.
Yeah, I like to see people, in zero, almost zero, because I tell students that they are not zero, that we are never zero, but they call themselves like that. So,
Mhm.
and starting to communicate in English. So that's
That's her passion.
my passion. I would say that's my life mission.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Um, but on the other side of all this love, I started feeling that I was losing my English. And I didn't
And
have
when
any.
did you realize it? Let me know. Give me some examples. Like, okay, when did you notice? Oh my God,
No,
I forgot this. Or
yeah, it was like, do you know BTE? I started BTE, And then we would participate in the sessions. It was all in English because that time we were only English teachers there. And I started feeling insecure to talk because it was not that I knew that I knew how to talk, but I started feeling that I was having to think too much,
Mhm.
to
Taking too long,
too long, taking too
hesitating.
long to form my ideas, not to form, but to express.
Huh? You had your ideas, but to transfer those ideas into your English, the
Yeah,
process
no,
was
yeah,
slower.
and what I thought that was that I was communicating, but I wasn't communicating in the level I used to,
Mhm.
you know?
And guys, let me just another. I love adding parentheses. So another parenthesis here. This person online on Instagram, we didn't rehearse anything. I didn't send her any questions, anything. She's doing this on the spot, right? So, woo, that's amazing, right? You were insecure talking to people in a Zoom meeting, and you're doing it online to a lot of people. That's
Yeah,
such a huge
yeah.
change.
Yeah, and then I said, oh my God, I can feel like this because I'm doing the opposite of what I tell my students to. Because I tell them you have to practice, and that if you don't practice, you don't get fluent. And I feel that I'm losing my fluency, because my listening was very good because I practice. In fact, I practice it every day. Every single day I listen to English. I read English really well. I write. I'm not writing so much, so it was another thing that I was worried about, that my writing would get rusty.
Mhm.
And the
You know what's
speaking.
amazing? What is amazing is how easy it is for us to keep what we call the receptive skills, right? Because what you get, like when you listen to what other people produced. When you read what other people produced. But the productive skills, the speaking and the writing, they start getting behind.
Yeah.
Yes, they started falling behind.
And I don't know if I was feeling, but I was so afraid of feeling. I have a story. I think I've never told you that.
Hmm.
I have a story that when I was 24 or 23, I had a sequence of headaches. It was very funny. Now it's not funny, but at that time it wasn't funny at all.
Now it's funny. It wasn't
Uh,
funny at the
I had
time,
a
right?
sequence of headaches. In fact, migraine for a week, and it was really, um,
Debilitating.
yes. Uh, and I always heard that our English is on the opposite side, for example, on the right side, and my headache was in the right side. And I was with this, I was having this headache for 5 or 6 days already. And I went to the emergency room and I told the doctor, please, you have to discover to find out whatever it is on my head because it's on the right side and it's my English side and I can't lose it.
You told this to the doctor?
I told this to the doctor.
What did he tell you?
He said, first, you were crazy. You're not losing your English, but okay, let's see. And then I was in hospital for 5 days, and they didn't discover.
No, the origin of your headache?
Yeah, no. Probably now we know that it was a
Stress.
consequence of lupus. I don't know what to say lupus in
Oh,
English.
okay. I think it's lupus. Usually these are
It
diseases.
was like a
Mhm.
crisis, but it was in the beginning of everything, and we didn't know about it because after this, I started having pain in other parts of the body.
Other symptoms.
Yes. Um. So it was a funny start. So that's how I am afraid. How much I am afraid of losing my.
No, but I think that, if I were in your shoes, I think I'd probably feel the same because that's how I make money, that's the way I
Yes.
live. So if I
That's my work.
if I forget English, what am I gonna do? I don't know. Just I don't know
Yeah.
if I can do anything else. But yes, I see your point. Imagine if you have a stroke, and with that
Imagine,
stroke,
I was 24, so
I
young.
know, Jesus Christ, nightmare. Knock on wood. No way, Jesus.
And then here I am, no stroke, everything's okay, my English is back. And on that time, I used to teach intermediate levels and advanced
Uh-huh.
in school.
So it means that your English was in good shape. Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't like I was fearing because after this, it was like I am 34, so 10 years ago. So I was,
Mhm.
start. Yeah, not in the beginning of my career because I started teaching at 19, the
You
age
were,
of 19. Yeah.
yeah, you were kind of halfway there. Let's not even halfway there,
Yeah,
but it was in the
but
beginning. It was sort of not the very first years, but in the early years of your teaching career, let's put it this
yes.
way, right?
And when I started, and I have to tell you something, people, this course exists because of me. Because when I met Deborah, we met in a mentoring group. We participate, and when I met her and I listened to her speaking English, I felt, oh my god, I have to speak this English. My English is not like this. So,
Shut
I told
up.
her, Deborah, do you have a teaching course? Do you have a conversation club for teachers or something like this? No, you should have. So I talked to another friend of us, Renata, Renata,
Renata, we
and
miss
I
you.
told Renata, you have to to help me convince her. We have to persuade her, you know,
Mhm.
to start this class, and it took a
It
year.
took me a year because I didn't work with teachers at the time, so it was guys, if you're watching us and you're teachers, and if you're online teachers, that's clear how you don't need to be 100% sure of your niche when you begin, right? We end up finding things out as we go, and I found out I wanted to work with teachers because after all, this was what I had been doing my entire life as a coordinator, but I needed a mentor to tell me that. How surprising that is. And growth happens exponentially once you find out what you truly love doing. At that time, I was working only with intermediate
Yeah.
students. And I told Fefe, I don't have it. And it was funny because the very week I decided, I said, okay, so let's have a conversation club together. Renata, you, me. The very same week, Marina sent
Mari,
me a message.
Gui,
But Marina was like, the same week, Marina said, Dad, I need a course to keep on practicing my speaking. And I go like, oh my God, is it the universe? Did you all have a plot? Have you connected, do you have a separate WhatsApp group to convince me to do things? And then we started the advanced language practice. So yes, you are the founder. You,
yeah,
hey, and Marina, you are the founder. And then Guy joined, and we've been, I think we are now in the third group of advanced language practice.
yeah, and I miss it because as I had a baby, I'm not
You,
going to
you
classes,
haven't been able
attending
to
classes,
join.
but I'll be back. And what I think that is the most special part of it is that we learn um, at the same time that we learn more, because yes, there are many things we don't know
Always.
so far,
Hmm.
always.
There's
And like
always.
I tell students that not English, not only English, but all the languages are
Alive.
live. They're live. They're alive, in
They
fact.
that
And
part.
they change all the time.
Hmm. And not
So,
only that, also your practice. One thing that I always tell my students too is that speaking a different language is like exercising muscles. If we only focus on the receptive skills, as we were discussing, the reading and the listening, your muscles get rusty, right? You're transitioning from the idea into the wording of what you're trying to say. This process gets slower. It's
Yeah.
just like exercising. It is somewhat a mechanical activity as well as a cognitive activity.
Yes. And then I remember that we did the test, and then I got a C1, and I said, "Oh, I
I'm
was
still
doing
there.
pretty good. I'm still there."
I'm still there.
And and not only about English, because not with with English, but in the classes, because most of us are teachers. I think all of us are
Only
teachers.
teachers. Mm-hmm.
Uh, we learn new activities. We talk about different subjects. Um, we share how to explain things. My case, I usually share how to simplify things. You know,
Yes.
that because that's my niche.
Mhm.
So as a student, I work with basic students. I need to have this
Ability, right?
simplified grammar, for example,
Mhm.
and um
And
and activities.
we share realities, right? I think this is because especially if we're working like we are working as a freelancer teachers, right? We work from home. We don't have this, sometimes we miss this sense of having someone to give you support, to talk about things or your questions, your insecurities. So we have a room to share all of this and to say, listen, what you're going through is okay. I've been through that too.
Like a
There is
community.
like a community, precisely, exactly like that. In the
And
beginning of
I
the year, we had a session, Marina, Fabio, and I, and we were talking exactly about that. How, uh, and sometimes, guys, if you know me, Finn knows me, I'm like brutally honest with the people who are around me when they need a nudge. I'm that one who will give the nudge. And Marina was saying something, and I said, Marina, okay, now you go home. And you go home, no, but you're home already. But when you shut this computer off, you think about what you just said, and you come back with a different answer next class. She was like, yes, I guess you're right, because we have a broader perspective and we are able to share this, right, with other teachers who have been teaching for longer, who have more experience in some areas, and to share things that you have experienced, right?
yeah,
What
that's
were
true.
what was the impact? How did you feel the impact, as you mentioned, not only in your language, but also in your teaching, in your feeling of having a community? How did it impact you?
I think I was able to even accept more advanced students.
Oh,
Um, because I think when we have more advanced students, and in my case, intermediate students, they challenge us more because they're not only on that basic
structure and
structure
communication.
and subjects. They want to talk about different things, and they want to really have a conversation on a topic. So it challenges us because we have to better our background for that,
Mhm.
and to record videos, to even challenge more the students, and also to get better activities with the students. For example, your warm ups are great. I love them. So I adapt all of them to my students, the ones that are possible.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And it's amazing how the sense of self-confidence, sometimes we take self-confidence for granted, right? We think that it's only personal. But having a strong sense of self-confidence, for example, when you saw, look, I'm still a C1 level, this means I can accept that higher level student. I'm able to come here on Instagram and go live in English because you are more self-assured of what you can do, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I wouldn't do lives in English already, but I would use more English. Um, and that's really good because
Yes.
I love English. So my English must be excellent.
Right?
Enough
As
is not
teachers,
enough for
no.
me.
No, enough is not enough for my community. That's why you are all high achievers.
Yeah,
Enough is not enough for us. We want more.
yeah,
Yes? We want
that's
more.
it.
We feel like we need more, we deserve more, and we want to push our students to aim for more too. Yes?
Yes.
It's about
Yes.
expanding, it's about of overflooding all this knowledge and everything. And do you feel that after you started using those techniques and pushing your students a bit more, do you feel that they themselves have also developed?
Yeah, yes.
How do you tell me about it?
Um, I'm a little like, because there's something here. Someone started a really bad noise. I don't know if
No,
it's
we cannot hear
going
it.
through,
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Hear everything.
So I
Here's
was concerned about this
no.
because I was paying attention to both sounds.
Forget about the
Um,
noise. I don't hear it.
yes, I think so. I have a student who she had a trauma. I would say a bad trauma, but every trauma is bad. So she had a trauma with English, and then we started, and she could talk about her, and then I started pushing her a little further.
Hmm.
So she told me, teacher, I have the impression that it was getting easier, but then it started getting harder. But also, I'm feeling that I am um, taking the risk. And then I
Beautiful.
said, that's it. That's it. That's what is English is about. We are never, we don't ever know enough.
Yes, yes. And again, this idea of feeling comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yes, embracing the idea that we are lifelong learners, and when your students see you pushing yourself, they go and say, she does as she says, as she tells us to do, right? She prays as she preach. She
yes.
does it the way she tells us, and
And
I think
and
this
wha-
is
and that's
inspiring.
what and that's what before the classes had preoccupied me, because
Hmm.
I used to say to my students, no, you have to practice. You have to practice English every day. Because if you stop practicing, you will lose what you have. Okay, you don't lose everything. What you really learned, you don't lose what you learned, but you're gonna feel less confident. You're gonna feel insecure, and you needed to continue evolving.
Hmm. But then you thought to
And
yourself,
then I started thinking, oh my God, I'm a fraud because I'm telling them to do it. And I really thought this.
ah, yes, it's
Um, and then,
this is such an undermining feeling, because it's kind of it creeps under our skin, and when you notice it's impacting the way you produce content, the way you deliver your classes, because you are always second guessing yourself, like I tell them to do this, but I don't do it.
yeah. And I
It's
said, I can't
inconsistent.
lose it because I worked so hard, to get where I was. For example,
Mhm,
when I took the proficiency test, I studied so much. I was always a good student. Why am I not like this anymore? So
mhm. Yeah, so
here we
so
are.
there's hope.
There's hope.
There's hope. If people are losing, they feel like they're taking too long to think, they're hesitating too much, words don't come. One thing that you mentioned as well, you told me in the beginning, you said, it seems that I always use simple structure. I know the more complicated stuff, but because I teach English and I have this ability to simplify things, you said I'm always simplifying my,
Yes.
yeah.
I, and what started happening in my classes is that because sometimes and then my students, there's a student that she looks at me and say, "Okay, teacher, now
Come back.
slow, please." I said, "I'm sorry." because as they are going, I go with them, and I tell them,
Exactly.
I go until you are with me. We are
So you tell
there,
me to stop.
But and then I started paying attention on their faces because when I get so uh how could I
Carried
say it? Excited.
away.
They
Yeah.
tell me I get excited. Teacher, you get excited and you start speaking, and then we are here like this. I say sorry. And that it was something that was not happening before because I was
Mm-hmm.
always on the same rhythm.
Uh-huh. Yes, keeping the same pace and going slowly. This is something that very few people talk about. When you're teaching basic students, you have to grade your own language. Like all the time, you're grading your, not only basic, I would say even for intermediate students, you have to grade your language. The only people I don't grade my language with, it's with you with advanced language practice and my C1 prep, because I know I can bring whatever, and if you don't know something, you're going to find a way to understand from context, or maybe research the word, look up the word, whatever. But with other students, we are constantly grading our language and our pace. Yes.
Yeah.
So
The
we get,
pace, especially the pace.
yeah, yes. And it takes, then you can take longer to think and articulate. Also, Faye, something that I see a lot of basic teachers doing is in terms of articulating the words. Because when you're teaching basic, our tendency is to actually articulate everything very clearly, which doesn't happen in a natural speaking environment. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I take a lot of care. I pay attention so much in English. It's because, for example, the D's and T's and everything.
Final syllables.
Yes. So I try to tell them. So pay attention. It's not study, or study, or teacher,
Study ed, right?
teacher,
It's not study ed.
studied.
Yes,
Yes.
studied.
Played, it's played, not played.
Mm-hmm.
And because they want to read everything. And in one of our feedbacks, you told me, Faye, you're articulating so much. I said, oh my God, I'm doing what I tell my students not to do.
No, but I totally understand. We have this tendency. I don't teach basic, but we have this tendency of wanting to make it clear what we're doing. So I want them to realize I'm talking about the past. If I just say I worked, are they going to understand that I say and then I go, I worked? But no, that's not how it works. If you're teaching basic, you gotta teach them that it's I worked. This
Yes.
T sound is the past.
Yes, even when I transcribe, do a transcription for them for the pronunciation, not with the phonetic symbols because
Hmm.
they don't know that, but with the Portuguese and
Yeah.
reference. I try not to put the word, the sounds that we don't pronounce, like worked, and they say, "Wait, teacher," but what, teacher?
What,
Because it's like
teacher?
they say,
Of course. Osh.
but there isn't a T there. And I say, but that's the sound,
That's how you say it. And that's so important. I think it's very important to bring that to our conversation, because it's not only about pronunciation, it's also about pronunciation, but mainly about comprehension. Because when they listen to people speaking English, they're gonna look for the way you speak. As a teacher of basic, you are their model. So when
Yeah,
they listen to other people, they're going to look for the way you say things. If you say I worked, they expect to hear I worked. And when they hear I worked, what
yes.
is that?
You reminded, what you're saying reminded me of another shoot that now, when I'm on social media, I send reels for them,
Mhm.
to practice their English
Mhm.
because there are people talking, especially in interviews. I think that's very good for them. because there are at least two people talking, and they can see that they have different accents and everything. And I don't remember what was the word, but my student told me, teacher. So that's how they pronounce this word, because I used to see this in interviews or things, and I thought I wasn't listening to it. And now that you are telling me how to pronounce it, it makes sense. And then see. She knew the word. She knew what the meaning of the word, but she wouldn't recognize it when she listened to it, because she didn't know the pronunciation. That's crazy. That's really
But it
crazy.
happens super often. It happens super often. How many times have you missed, or you don't even understand like something what the person says, and when you see the script you go like, oh, but these are two words put together, and
Yeah,
in my head it was something completely different.
yeah.
Yes, this happens.
And when they say hi teacher, because as they're basic, I think we have to teach them, for example, and I instead of and I, you
Beautiful.
know, or and I you when I have these examples and I have the a memory of a song, for example, I sing to them.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna do this right now because we are
Oh, I
like
think you
so.
should.
But for example, and I tell them that the song is from Titanic, yeah, and I
It's
say,
not Titanic, it's the bodyguard.
I don't know. See, it's very
Whitney
bad.
Houston, we'll always. Look at that.
Yeah,
You don't say
and
will
then
always. You say will
yes,
always.
and then they say, teacher, can't believe that was it. But I can I. So I, since the beginning, I teach them like this. And sometimes they don't do this connection, but I tell them, okay, if you don't want to speak like this, it's your choice because you speak the way you want. But if you're gonna listen to people talking English, when you listen, probably you are gonna listen like this.
Exactly. And sometimes they don't have enough, as we were talking about the articulation of words, they don't have enough maturity. They're not ready yet to produce the sounds, but they know what to expect. So I think this is
Yeah,
a huge service to society. I think that if every basic teacher did as you do, we would have far fewer people who cannot speak when they get to an intermediate level.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there is we are talking, and I'm remembering
Bring them
remembering
cases. I remember some cases.
of a lesson I have in my course, because we have a text, they're talking about routine. Okay, they're basic students, so we're talking
Mhm.
about routine. And there is one class, and that's something that I like to do, that I read the text with them for them to do shadowing.
Mhm.
And one of the points of the lesson is linking sounds.
Mhm.
So in the text, I say, okay, you say, I wake up, quando vou pro trabalho, when I. You can say when I, but you can also say when I get up, make up,
Mhm.
this kind of things, because when you listen to this, when you get a video on YouTube to see something, you're gonna listen like
Mhm.
this. So you have to know how to pronounce. And there is a lesson in my course that I make them listen and after practice like this, because I think it's very important. Very
It's
important.
crucial. Crucial.
Because on traditional courses, we're gonna learn this. You know, when you
Intermediate.
learn,
Yeah, if so.
if
And
so,
even the audios are prepared, right? Like they go like, "Hi, Kathy, are you going to the gym?"
yes, and it's not like this. And then you record a lot of videos with me, because I said I want them to listen to it naturally,
Uh-huh.
and it's very important.
And it's not about
Otherwise,
speaking fast, right? It's
we
not about
would,
speaking fast, but it's about not isolating words. I think that's the point. You don't need to speak like that. Of course, in your audios, we don't record it like this.
no,
You tell me to slow down all the time,
yeah,
but it's about not articulating each word individually. They're all part of a sentence. They're all part of something bigger, and
yeah,
students need to be familiarized with that.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Because what is one of the problems? And then uh, there is another reason for us to keep practicing. If we teach basic, probably we have to articulate more some words, but also we need to show them uh, that it's not always like this.
Mhm.
So it's not always. It becomes not always. So and they have to what I use it or what I tell them. I often tell them is that some people think to better their pronunciation they have only to listen and to speak. But for example, reading and listening, shadowing, it's also
Shadowing.
very important because and reading, listening and reading together, it's very important because they connect sound with word. They
Hmm. The
match.
visual and the auditory, right?
Yes, because sometimes they say, "Oh, I know this word, but I don't know how to write it," or "I know this word, but I don't know how to pronounce it."
Yes.
And when you connect things, it's better. And I also have a student. He told me, "Teacher, it's very funny because I use it to read a lot in English because he's a psychologist, and everything is in English in his area. He works with behavior analysis, and uh, he told me it's really interesting because I would read a lot of articles, academic articles, with in English, and he told me that when he started speaking, he started understanding the articles better.
You- Look at that,
And
the
he told me,
integration, right?
teacher, how come could I uh, get a better understanding by
From
speaking? And I said, because our brain needs to connect to things.
yes.
And I told him, did you learn how to speak or to write and read in Portuguese first? So it's very important to have this reference. And
Mhm.
then one of the issues, I think, I don't like to say problem, of students who starts reading or who start reading before they speak is because they have this is a
Topic
subject for
for another
another
live.
thing. Yes, because what happened? They read the texts with Portuguese pronunciation, with the reference of
And that's
Portuguese.
it, because every time you're reading, there is a voice in the back of your head which is speaking. It's silently speaking, right? But you're reading and
Yes,
you have that voice going on. And again, sometimes, have you ever had, and I'm sure you had, you guys here too in the live and the podcast, when you get a text, a sentence that is a little bit more complex in English and you don't get it, then you have to say, okay, pause. You read again and you add the pauses, or you add the intonation, and then you go like, now it makes sense.
yeah,
It
yes, yes, yes.
that totally happens.
That
That's so
happened.
true. That's so true. And
Ah,
Fê,
and I also
what?
like so much to use inversions now in class because I don't
Never,
ever have the
hardly ever
opportunity.
do you have the chance.
Never. No, it's
Yeah,
never.
it's
It's
never. It's not
outside
happening.
of our classes. Never.
So you see. We must get back to it.
Yeah.
And what advice or what kind of tip? My dog's barking. Do you hear him? I don't know what's going on here. He's
No,
really unhappy.
no,
Good.
there is a truck
No,
here making a
we
lot of
don't.
noise. Because as I told you yesterday, we had
Oh yeah.
flood here. There was
Oh,
a flood here.
flood in
So
the neighborhood, right?
yes, so they're cleaning the streets. So imagine the noise of the machines and trucks and everything. So they are here
No, we don't get
behind my,
it.
my apartment. So the noise is really loud
We don't
here. So
get it.
sometimes I have to pay a lot of attention. And that's really, guys, I have
That's a
something to
challenge.
tell you. Probably I have ADHD. And Deborah is very good with keeping my attention. So you're not getting one of the fear that I had with when we started, and you know that because I tell you, is to get annoyed in the class, to get bored, and it doesn't happen because we are always producing and we are always engaged to participate. She challenges us
All the time.
all the time. So if you think your English is getting rusty, or if you think like me that you're losing your advanced English, because my thing was not that I was losing my English. I knew, but I was really afraid of losing my English because I said I don't have anyone to practice it with. So please, Deborah,
Do something about
do
it.
something about it. You are the most certified person I know. So please
Yeah, you
do
brought it
something.
into reality. And it's a project I'm super proud of and something that I love working with because of all the sharing, because of all the community we build, because of the exchanges that we have that go far beyond techniques and
Yeah,
English. Yes, I think
we
we
share
make human.
everything.
We
We
make human
share,
connections.
yes, we
We
share
have
about
lives. Yes,
values, we
Camila
share
and
about prices, issues with the students.
we have collab lives like Marina and Camila went live together.
Yeah,
So you
that's
make
it.
partnerships,
That,
right? A
that's
lot of
it.
things can arise from these moments.
And it's also a very, I think I can say, cozy place.
It's warm.
Yes, it's a warm place. It's a safe place for us because all of us are there with the same goal, that is not losing our English or to improve our English. In my case,
Yes.
it's not losing because I got
Not
it
losing but growing, right?
and growing. Yes,
Improving.
because now I know that I didn't lose it. So
Uh-huh.
now I have to better it, to
Uh-huh.
improve it.
Uh-huh. Exactly, exactly. And Faye, if there are still some teachers around who are in doubt, like I don't know if it's for me, I don't know if I would feel comfortable in the group, I don't know, they're still insecure, like they're still embarrassed and they're afraid of stepping out and showing their faces, getting out of their comfort zone or uncomfort, discomfort zone. We cannot say that this area is comfortable, but
Yes.
what would you tell them?
I will tell something that I read recently, and that is a sentence. I don't know who wrote it. That is that nothing big happens in the comfort zone. So if you wanna evolve, if you wanna have more students, if you wanna prepare better content for students and social media, if you wanna have more authority, you must be there in the group.
And
You must,
every
yes,
transformation happens from the
from the
inside. Yes.
inside. And for example, in my case, I don't want to change my niche, but I want to know that what I achieved is still with me.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And there's another point, and we're going to close it after this point. But the thing is,
Yes, because I have a class at midday.
me too. Your students, they develop and they walk through a path. It's important that you follow them and you are way ahead, right? Because they
Always.
will develop.
We can't be at the same level.
So you feel sometimes I have teachers who tell me, I feel that students are catching up with me. You know, the gap is growing smaller.
Yes, I didn't have this feeling, thank God, yet. But
No, you won't.
but I think that's really hard to feel like this. So if you're feeling anything about your English, this kind of bad feelings, you know,
It's time to move on.
it's time to move
Do
on
something
because
about it.
if you don't do something about it, you're gonna stay in the same place or
Worse. Yes. Or
yes,
fall back, because that's what happened. If you're not developing, you are coming back,
yes.
falling back.
I read this too.
Mm-hmm.
And I also read in that book 10 times, 10x,
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes we put some goals for us that are small because we don't have the courage to face bigger achievements because we think we don't deserve it. So
That's deep.
that's
Yes,
deep.
that's really deep.
I think you should read it. So
Barbara said here, when students understand the connected speech in authentic materials, they feel so confident.
yeah,
That's it, Barb. It's about showing them that they cannot communicate only with their teachers. They can communicate with the world.
yeah,
Yes?
yeah.
That's very precious.
Because most students are gonna travel, they're gonna use English at work, but many students wanna turn on the TV, you know, their favorite series on Netflix or any other streaming, and understand what they are saying. And they're gonna speak like this.
Precisely, that's it.
It's very important.
Very good. So if this is your goal, if you're watching us and your goal is to actually step out of your comfort zone, become a more fluent teacher, a better teacher in so many different ways, ALP has its spots open for a short period of time. I'm not gonna give any details right now, but I'm gonna tell you more till the end of the week, and we'll keep on working on this practice. Fed, thank you very much. It was a huge pleasure to have you with us. Guys, if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them down here, drop them down here, and I'll see you next week. Bye, Fê.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Kisses, you're
Yeah.
welcome. See ya.